Okay, so it's one of the last times before, maybe the last time before Pesach. So then we're going to do something that is not Pesach oriented. We're going to talk about if there is or there isn't such thing as love at first sight. So what do you think? There is love at first sight?
Usually not love. Love takes years to develop.
So you're basically saying there isn't. What do you say? There isn't love at first sight. Man, you're helpless sinners. Yeah, is there love at first sight?
Except for...
You don't even know what love is, huh? No. Okay, anyway, you want to no, Matt, you don't want to try, you don't want to... No. There isn't. Okay. So the conclusion is that there isn't. Okay, you guys are wrong. There is. However, there is something, but let's see if that's really love. Let's see what it is. And one needs to understand that when you so-called, I mean, people do feel love at first sight. And you know, if when you were a kid and if you look at Marsha from the Brady Bunch, you will feel love. Everybody was in love with Marsha, right? You know Marsha from the Brady Bunch? Sam knows, huh? But you should know that usually when you have what we call love at first sight, it has really nothing to do with the person that is the object more than it is associated with other people. And which becomes quite problematic, right? It could be associated with the other people that you have, with other events, with memories that you have that you might not even be aware of. Sometimes things happen to you when you kind of push it to the back of your awareness and you're not aware, or something that you caught the glimpse of the side of, the corner of your eye, and you're not aware that it actually penetrated you, but it did, and it left an effect on you. All kind of different memories that you have and so on. So when you fall in love with somebody at first sight, it is because that person had awakened inside or within us, usually in an unaware, manner, an unaware fashion, pleasant feelings that are associated most likely to somebody from our past. You don't understand? You understand? You want me to explain? Okay. So it's not that the person is there. It's like it brought you like a glimpse of a memory from the past of a pleasant association you had with a person, or it could be sometimes even an imaginary person, like let's say Marsha from the Brady Bunch, right? Okay, let's not get into that. And all of a sudden you so-called fall in love, but you're not really in love. It's just an awakening of feelings that you had, and that's what most people are mistaken. And it has nothing to do with the person. That's the separation with love is altogether. It has to do with you. It has nothing to do with them. It's something that you find inside. Look, in Shir HaShirim, right, it says, what does it say? Libivtani achoti kala, right? Achoti kala. You had a mazel lelabev. It's like lelabev, like a livluv of a tree. You made it. You brought about a feeling of exactly. You stir it up, little darling. That's right. That's very good. But that's actually when Bob Marley talks about stir it up. It's not that. But never mind. I'll tell you later. But yes, but it's actually you brought something about, like the same thing as a livluv from a tree, which we have to make birkat ha'ilanot, right? The blossoms of the tree come about libiftani mishum lelavev, right? From the heart. You had awakened something inside of me. Who? My sister, my kala. So you see the association. Okay. So the parallel of this beloved woman that it comes about. It brings an association of a feeling of somebody that he really cares about, which is really the sister of the person who loves. Okay, Liviftani achoti kala. And it's not, it's not just a coincidence, because many of the loves that come to our lives, what we call the love of our lives, had been formed many times and were formed in the print, in the mold of first loves that we had in our lives. It is basically what we call a love of our life. Somewhere along the line, we follow a certain pattern. That mold, that model of love that we had was formed early on in our lives, and then we try to fit a person into that mold. When we fit that person, bingo, we got it, love. That's why it's very important to show love to kids and affection, because and for many people, that's why they're able to love more people into their lives and develop, because you are creating those cavities in which they can pour their love later on in life. Kids who were not shown affection will have a very difficult time to show love, because they don't have anything to pour that into a mold. They don't have that mold to pour that feeling in. So it will be very difficult for them to show love. So, and those loves in our lives many times, let's say love to parents. Yes, little edifice. Usually it has associations with the other sex. So the boy loves the mother, the girl is daddy's girl, and mommy's boy, right? It's usually like that. Of course, we grow out of it. You don't want to be stuck there forever. Otherwise, you're going to become a perverted creature. Edifice, right? And so on and so forth. Or love to people that were with us when we were young, that had exposed us to love, and therefore we form love to people of that stature, of that form. It could be love to brothers or sisters, and so on and so forth. People who really loved you. So later on, when you go out to the world, right, we're looking for love in all the right places, right? We're looking for love that would fit the mold of what we had experienced throughout our lives. In other words, we're trying to fit into those molds the appropriate material, the appropriate people that could feel what we had associated with as love. And therefore, many times we find somebody who could awaken this whole charge of emotions, in one incident, and then all of a sudden, what we have is, we have this bang, and we are loved. Why? Because that person was able to awaken within us all the right emotions that we had experienced and associated with what we call love in our life, and therefore what we call it is love. And of course, if we're lucky, that person later on that we fell in love with throughout the time would reveal to us that it was for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons. Many times we fall in love with people for the wrong reasons, because of the wrong experiences in which we had. And it awakens something inside of us, but we put it into the wrong category. That's the problem. And that's why you have some people, he says, I can't believe this person, always fall in love with the worst type of people. It's a pattern in which they follow. Our brains are in a way geared to follow and look for patterns in almost anything we do. Okay? So the patterns in which were created within us as children, many times we will seek to go through them over and over again. And that's why it's very difficult for a child that has exposure to and ongoing patterns of behavior to break away from these patterns on his own, you need a tremendous amount of power to be able to break it. That's why father acts like son, acts like father, acts like son, and so on and so forth. It's an unbroken chain. And many times, that's why, you might hate certain things by your father. You have your glasses in your pocket. Oh my goodness. I'm sure your father has a glass door. Many times, you hate something about your father. Let's say your father is, 40, 50 years old, whatever it is. And all of a sudden you get to 40, 50 years old and you find yourself acting exactly like your father, right? And well, I love that song, right? It's a horrible song, but it's, what's the name? Cats in the Cradle. That's right, it's exactly it. You're becoming like your daddy.
Boy.
Yeah. That's exactly, because all this time, all his life, Michael, enough. All these times, the boy wanted to be like his father, and then the father denied him, and then the boy became like his father, and then he denied the father. Yes, exactly it. Exactly it. I mean, it's a very important song. I do believe in raising children. A person needs to listen to this song over and over again, and really pay attention to what he's doing, because it's absolutely like that. I mean, you do become like your dad. So anyway, but so hopefully it's for the right reasons, and then you're lucky. But therefore it means that there are things in her or him or whatever that really turn that person appropriate for this love. If I fell in love with a person, right, eventually, if it becomes a good love, means that was appropriate qualities in this person that makes it worthy for what I experience in love. And of course, then we match for each other and we fit with each other and so on and so forth, but it's not necessarily have to be. And if it's not like that, we have a lot of problems. And as much as there is love in first sight, there is hate in first sight, but I'll get to it in a second. Many times, if you are lucky, you love each other, and we'll talk about it some other time about fighting, couples fighting, and so on and so forth. And you should know, just to make a point, couples that always fight in higher frequency, not necessarily have higher chances of divorce. It's not about the frequency; it's the quality of the fighting. But that's something to put there in the back of your mind. But regardless of that, so you see from here, when you say to yourself, oh my goodness, I'm in love with this person, or I'm in love with her, or I'm in love with him, you need to ask yourself right away, hey, wait, why is that? Because again, it is all the patterns. It's not the person, it's you. It's you who takes a person and puts them in your molds. So what is it that you like it? What is it that so-called turns you on, and the person that makes you love? And that's why a person needs to be very careful with what we call love in first sight. It is an emotion of love, but it's not necessarily what we call love. Okay? It is more of a fulfillment of patterns, of molds in which we were experienced, but that's not love. Love will develop later on. After we had this initiation, love will develop later on. Hopefully, again, if that person is worthy and the relationship had matured into that. But that's love in first sight is, let's call it this way, it's not really love, it's rather a collection of repeated emotions from your past in which you are categorizing and labeling as love. So if you go on the subway and you see a beautiful girl with like a blonde hair and so on and so forth, and you call it love, it's not love. It's not even lust. It is a part of your imaginary world or your experience, and which you would experience that you're categorizing your relationship to that object as love. Okay? Now, of course, there is hate in first sight, right? Hate in first sight. There are, when we were when we were young. No, when we were young. Today everything is political correct. Everybody got to be political correct. So you can't say those things. But well, you're late. So in the political correctness things, you can't say those things. But when we were young, we had the freedom of speech. So therefore, political correctness was not an issue. And we call it something like FDP, if you call it an English term. What's FDP? A face demanding of a punch. Yeah, there are people that you see them, they haven't done anything to you. You just see this guy, I don't know, you just want to hit the guy. No PDF, FDP. Face deserving of a punch. There are people like that. And basically he's a person, he hasn't done anything bad to you, hasn't done anything to you. And you already know that you want to beat the daylight out of him. And the question is, of course, why is that? Why? Because basically, he brought about feelings in you about a person that you really, really dislike. And as such, you can associate this person anything else besides that. Argument's sake. Let's say, for example, I don't know, Bruce Willis reminds me of my brother-in-law. So I can't stand Bruce Willis because it reminds me of my brother. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that kind of association. You can't break away. It's not your fault in a way, but that's because that's the experiences, that's the feelings in which you had experience, and that's what it is. And many times it's not necessarily a person that person reminds you, but many times it's qualities within yourself that remind you that the qualities that you don't like about yourself that person does, and reminds you of yourself, and you really basically hate yourself, but you're never going to say that, so you hate that person. Many times parents do hate their kids. Everybody has a favorite, and there are some parents who actually hate their kids. And the reason why they hate that kid is most likely because that kid reminds them the most of themselves. As a result of that, they have their own unresolved issues. They didn't live up to what they thought that they should have become in their lives, and so on and so forth. And so they live very bitter. I mean, of course, they have the ability to change that at any given point, more or less. I mean, depends. But they're never going to do that, and they're never going to admit that, because they always live in the blame game. I wasn't the whole entire thing. Meanwhile, their son or their daughter follows the same exactly pattern they in behavior and looks and so on and so forth. As a result of that, guess what? They hate their sons because they hate themselves. Or they hate their daughters because they, and so on and so forth. So that happens as well. So you see, there is, by the way, a correlation. We're going to talk about it some other time. There is a strong correlation between love and hate. And by the way, again, as a side note, hate is not the opposite of love. You should know that. Hate is not the opposite of love. So in a case like this, as much as we call it love in first sight, there is hate in first sight. It's what evokes those feelings inside of you. And therefore, if you're aware of that process internally inside of you, you're able to handle the situation much better. And many times, girls fall in so-called in mad love with a guy who is a loser to them, and they fall for it because they're not aware of that process. Excuse me. And they become very vulnerable. They dirtbags because they're not aware of that. If you're aware of that, you say, wait a minute, hold on 1 second. It doesn't make sense. So that's why you should be aware of why you so-called fall in love with people or you hate people. So if you're going to summarize it, if there is such thing as love at first sight, let's say yes. But again, usually it has to do with memories in which we are not, subconscious memories that we're not so aware of, that inside of all of us, and associated with people that we that has shown love to us and we love them in return. And for that matter, hate could be also in first sight. And if we are very, very lucky, it's going to be love. It's going to be for love at first sight. It's going to be for the good reasons. And if we're not lucky, it's just going to get worse and worse. So therefore, when you have those feelings, or you think, oh man, I have a crush on her. I got a girl crush, right? So wait, I got a girl crush? Okay, wait a minute, hold on one second. Let me see. Why do I have a girl crush, right? And then you got to see, why is that? You'll be able to handle the situation much better. So I'll tell you that. Open your eyes, proceed with caution, and watch out. Have a great day.